time to get geeked up.
But with that, too, like we said, we had a lot of our buddies were on the show, and another buddy of ours, old school friend of Liam's, new friend of mine to the show, but Mike Manzi, who not only hosts a podcast of his own, the Cage Club Network, with his buddy Joey, but he also has a string of other podcasts, so much like Big LW over there, and has his own network, even made the old local Jersey paper, but...
big one-upsmanship on the local Jersey paper in me and Man's hometown. He's really shot ahead of me on the hometown hero race. But
Manzi was on a show on February 17th, 2016. We made him play a Nicolas Cage game with us, kind of just talk podcasting in general, and this is us catching up with him right now.
All right, so happy to bring on my old friend and one of the Geeked Up Podcast favorites, as well, I should say, however, one of the Geeked Up Podcast competition, our number one competition in the Geeked Podcast market. But welcome back to the show, my main man, Mike Manzi.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back. Sorry it took so long to be back, but it's great to be here.
It's all good, brother. It's all good.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, great to have you back. As like I said, your show was one of the most, I'd say, like in format geeked guests that we've ever had. Because at the time you were doing the Cage Club, which of course was your podcast watching every Nick Cage movie in sequential order. All right. Now we've both, me and Devin have both been following along as you've moved on to sticking with the hilarious C alliteration as you've moved on to the Cruise Club, but now as well doing the Tom Tom thing with Tom Hanks and Cruise. So that's been sick. Want to tell us about your latest venture?
Yeah. Oh, man, I feel like so much has happened since the last time we really sat down, but we're still doing the Cage Club. Cage put out 6 movies last year, if I'm not mistaken, and like 6 movies like in a row. So like August, September, October, November, December, and January.
And I had that. We're gonna discuss a couple of those later. But so you are still doing the Cage Club, because I have a couple of that I've seen that I wanted to get your rundown on. But
yeah, we're still doing that, and then we moved on. We did all of Keanu after that. Then we did all of and then we did all of Charlize Theron's movies after that.
Okay, remember that
and
one?
Now,
yes.
And now Joey and I are in the middle of the Tom Tom Club, which was all of Tom Cruise and all of Tom Hanks's movies, and we were alternating one a week. So we would go back and forth.
Alternating Toms. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, Devin, how about you? Right off the bat, Devin, who do you? Devin, right off the bat, who are you liking more, Hanks or Cruise? Who's your Tom?
Oh, so it's crazy how far and away Tom Cruise movies are just like amazing. Like almost every one of his movies during this period have been like incredible. Like one after the other have been like almost better and better. He's got like 5 out of 42 movies that I probably wouldn't rewatch.
Okay, wow.
Whereas like Tom Hanks stuff, like a lot of that for me was coasting on the like nostalgia wave probably, and I went back and we were watching a lot of the Hanks stuff, and it's it's okay.
Yeah.
The comedies aren't really holding up. It's not really till he gets into like the 90s and
much
he
different
has, like,
style of
like
movies.
10 or 12 movies.
Now I know
different, yeah.
You guys really plug away because I remember at the Cage Club you were even doing like the SNL appearances. Did you guys watch every episode of Bosom Buddies?
We did.
Wow.
Wow, dude, that's very impressive.
And I think that might have been a mistake to start that way because it kind of took the wind out of our sails a little bit.
Yeah, right.
I believe
coming out the
gates.
gates.
Like, Jesus Christ. And you'd be surprised how little Peter Scolari pops up otherwise along the way. That was his buddy.
How many episodes was there, seasons of Bosom Buddies?
There was only 2 seasons, so I think
for real. But still, I mean,
like
Jesus, that's
18 each, 18 or 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's got to be
because it
50
was like
episodes or something, 40 episodes.
Very impressive.
We did it. We only did 2 episodes. We did each season at a time. We didn't do every
No, for
single
sure, but you
episode,
had to
we
watch them
watched
all
every-
at least. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Just the watching is the
Yeah.
more. I talked about it at the podcast. It's for me. It's easier to podcast than watch any of this shit. You know, I can. I always have time to talk about it, but a time to actually watch it as well. But I guess as well, in a lot of ways, though, the whole Cage Club was ahead of the curve on a lot of things, especially where we sit now in this post-Coronaville world. But a couple interesting things about the Cage Club looking back. But you and Lewandowski were doing the whole Zoom bi-coastal podcast long ago, like 5 years ago when we had you on. You guys were already doing the whole Zoom thing, weren't you?
Yeah, that's pretty funny how he was in Texas and I was in New Jersey, and we were doing it all. Yeah, even there was the time zone difference and everything like that. So, you know, he's since moved back to New Jersey, and we've tried to do as many live episodes in person as much as possible. We were really getting on a roll there for a while until this whole thing hit. But
you guys are prepared.
You know,
this is old hat to you.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
We sort of dropped back onto our old habits again and just like picked it up like nothing really changed. So
what,
yeah, we
75 movies from two different actors? And
now I want to point out a couple things that since you've been on that happened. One is that Liam and I kind of took a format like you guys have. We do a Netflix and chat podcast now, obviously, also, where we just pick a random Netflix. It has to be a Netflix original production.
Yeah.
And then we watch and review it. So, I mean, a lot of that is inspired by
the
you.
whole
but
binge
also,
watch thing has gotten very popular in general, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts that do it now, but I feel like Liam said, I feel like you guys were on the first. But also, I remember a few years ago, it was pretty close to after you were on our show. I'm not saying I weren't taking any credit for it or anything, but I remember emailing Liam a newspaper clip because you and Lewandowski made the local Jersey newspaper for doing the Cage Club podcast, which pretty fucking awesome, honestly, dude.
Yeah, big props to the Newark Star Ledger, by the way. Big shout out to them. And,
I mean, that was like pure luck. So like one of the guys who does a show on our network called Foodie Films, which is all like, it's a foodie podcast. And his girlfriend was a photographer for the Ledger or the Record or something. And
was it in the Record?
Like,
nice.
It was the Record.
Even better.
And she was like, hey, someone ought to do a story on like my friends, like they do this podcast thing, and like sure enough, like one of the reporters like picked up on it. And
I mean, somebody's got to bite the bait on that one.
Yeah, and like I didn't expect there to be such a spread in the newspaper, like front page and all that kind of thing. Like, you know, it was a very slow news day. But that's a really fun episode because like the reporter came over and watched a movie with us, and it was The Wicker Man, and like he had a really great time. And
that poor son of a bitch.
Yeah, I didn't know what he was in for. Hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, but it was like more of what he was hoping for, because like that movie in particular, we sort of like, you know, not make fun of more, but it's more of a fun movie to sort of sit and watch together than some of Cage's other movies. So, like,
and a more relatable Cage movie for like a one that more mainstream anyway. I guess that does get me into a couple of the
something
things.
Else. Oh, Liam, you mind if I do this?
Yeah.
I guess something else that you said though in that answer is that not only do you guys still are making your own podcast, but now you kind of have you have a little network, or I don't want to say a little, I don't mean to be demeaning, but you have like a network where you have other podcasts now that's like under your kind of banner, correct?
Yeah, so I wish I could take credit for like any of that really, but it just like spread and grew on its own, mostly like wildfire. And, you know, anyone can basically like do a show if they want to. There aren't that many, you know, regulations per se, but like, yeah, I think we have something like 25 shows on the network right now. And I mean, I would be remiss if I could tell you the name of every single one of them, even. Like, I have not studied up on my own network, but.
Well, I'll tell you one of them that's not on there. It's on the old Geeked Up.
Well, you know, you guys seem to be doing quite all right on your own. I mean, I don't know if we'd be much of a help, but who knows?
We don't know.
You know, maybe
we're on big business taking us
we
over.
could join forces someday. We're actually like, here's the other thing too, is like we haven't really been keeping, not that we don't want to, but like the way we sort of post and stuff, we don't have like the best record of like who's listening and all that stuff. But that's all changing soon as we're going to start like, I guess like, like uploading this stuff in a different way and being able to keep track of like, numbers a lot better than stuff like that. And so like once we sort of reach that next phase, I feel like the door is going to open even more for like anyone else that wants to come on board.
Awesome. Well, you kind of said it too, even if we're not in the network, fingers crossed, because like I said, me and Liam do the our separate kind of sister podcast is the Netflix and Chat. I mean, fingers crossed all around that the Nick Cage Tiger King movie is going to be a Netflix original, so we can finally get the four of us together and do the big Cage Club Netflix and Chat Geeked Up collaboration on that one.
What are your thoughts about that breaking news announcement? Nick Cage as the Tiger King.
It's guys, like it might be. I'm a little worried. I got to be honest. Like it's the first time in a long time.
Everybody is. It sounds terrible.
What, is this the one that kills Cage's career? He's gonna be real careful, this Cage.
Well, I know that's what I keep saying. Is like there's no way like he can ruin what he doesn't have necessarily. Like it is what it is. But like it's just not the way I wanted him to come sort of back. And like it just feels like, oh, here's a project that the mainstream is waiting to see and will embrace, and of course, it's like the perfect fit now. As far as
he's a maniac, Cage is a maniac. It seems like a perfect. How about
Isn't
a couple
it-
other more recent
would,
Cage movies though that I've seen? I guess since you were on as well, I did see Wild at Heart, which is one of the ones that you recommended when we asked you for our favorite Cage movie. That was a great one. But then as well, a couple more recent Nick Cage classics. But of course, and again, a shout out to Netflix and Chat. But of course, Mandy, where we rank, where that's, of course, the Nick Cage from Mandy signifies as bad as a movie can be on our podcast. But Mandy was an amazing Nick Cage role, as well as Color Out of Space. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
That was one from last year.
Did he see that one?
Well, have you guys done the episode yet? Have you done the?
But so we did. It's funny, we did an episode on that, and I think that's the film that might have not broken Joey, but like Joey kind of said, like, he expected more from Cage here. He feels like he might have been sort of not phoning it in, but it's like too obvious for him. Whereas I think it's perfect. I feel like this Tiger King news is a little too obvious. It's like,
sure.
Of course it's gonna be Nick Cage.
Well, what about the movie that's coming out, which is supposed to be like either really crazy or maybe really good? But isn't there like some crazy movie coming out where he's playing himself?
Yeah.
And it's going to be like a crazy action.
It sounds almost like Charlie Kaufman-esque kind of thing where.
For sure.
Yeah, he exists in a universe where he is the actor Nick Cage, and I think it's something like he has to recreate moments in his career or something like that. I'm not sure.
Okay, I've been
I'm loving the
too,
sounds of this.
Like it's going to be very bizarre, dude.
See, and that I'm loving the sound of that too.
That sounds
and
way better than the Tiger King.
Joey and I have been getting into conversations though recently about these new projects and stuff. And even for him, he's like, it's a little too meta, like it's a little too expected. It's like we're really waiting for him to sort of like. We're waiting for like Tarantino to call. We're waiting for like Paul Thomas Anderson, or the guys who did Uncut Gems, right? Like those guys.
Well, let me tell you this. This kind of gets me to my last question for you too, because this is like the Geeked Up podcast. But what character? How should Nicolas Cage, in like a geek's dream come true, be introduced in the MCU?
Oh man, so like my dream would be for him to come back as Ghost Rider in some capacity and be sort of the first crossover, not even the same.
Been
Ghost
down
Rider,
that road
like,
before though, no?
Yeah, I know it's true, but I was thinking he could like sort of pass the mantle on early on, and like maybe like Keanu could be the new Ghost Rider or something.
That's something they're talking about.
And other guys I do a podcast about. Somebody that I can podcast about. God damn it.
I think Nick Cage would make a killer Norman Osborn. I think would be the.
Those rumors were flying around. I remember he was there were even talks he was going to do that for one of the animated movies or something. But I think like I think I kind of came up with a great character for him. I don't know. It's a little obscure, but I think, now that Marvel has opened up the cosmic world, he would be a good Watcher. Do you know who the Watcher is by any chance?
100% I do.
Like,
100%.
This is all Devo.
Bald weirdo.
Yeah, dude, that would be amazing.
And comes down to Earth and talks to the Fantastic Four in like a really cryptic language or something, and then just goes away until the end of the just like this mysterious presence who dips in and out kind of thing.
Well, man, that sounds amazing. If the Tiger King Nicolas Cage movie isn't on Netflix, hopefully we'll have you back on when you called it Nick Cage plays the Watcher in an MCU movie.
Yeah,
I heard this. I heard Tiger King isn't Tiger King. I heard it might be a miniseries.
Might be a miniseries.
It might be a couple episodes, not just a movie. But
much like the Tiger King, it would be.
Yeah. Either way, if it's coming to Netflix, we're calling dibs. The Geeked Up Boys are.
But man, thank you so much, man, and definitely, like you said, and like we said, you were one of our favorite guests, and you have a great whole podcast series and network. Definitely, everybody check. You want to give one big plug before you go to how everybody checks out your podcast and your whole network and all?
Oh, yeah. So thank you guys very much. Everyone go check out cageclub.me. That's where you can find every show on the network, from Cage Club to Tom Tom Club to the show. I actually host a show on my own called Third Time's a Charm, where I just look at the third installment of a franchise. So I've done like everything from like Jaws 3 to like Beverly Hills Cop 3.
To Back to the Future 3 with Mad Dog Tanner, Biff's grandpa.
Yeah.
Easily my favorite of the trilogy.
I love that one. I love a good sci-fi western. And that show actually I might be ending that show on later next year in its third year. But I mean, maybe I could get you guys on an episode. I know, right? I was like, 3 years.
Yeah, for real. It's too perfect. Yeah. But man, thank you so much, man. We'll definitely see you. Our geek worlds will collide soon. But thanks again so much, man.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Manzi, look, thanks again. I know you haven't said it yet, but it's written all over you. Thanks for the big 5-year congratulations on our show.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate that. That was definitely on behalf of the whole network, guys. I'm sure. From Lou, thank Lewandowski as well. It was real nice of him to send along the well wishes. But
yeah, dude, brother. I appreciate it, Manzi. We'll talk soon, man.
Cool.
So, again, big thanks, and doing great out there, Manzi. Only fingers crossed, like me and Liam were saying. Hopefully to God that Nick Cage Tiger King movie is on Netflix. We can finally get
for sure.
Big,
worlds will collide on the...
Yeah, man.
I mean, eventually they will, though. There's not a sooner than later Cage will, Tiger King or not, sooner than later, Cage will wind up. And definitely check out the Cage Club network of podcasts. They really do a lot of great stuff. I got to check out this third sequel, this third in a series podcast, Three's a Charm or whatever.
Yeah.
By Manzi.
Well,